Once, I walked in and immediately noticed it. Something was different. Feel the tension? A distillery in Camden Town, disguised as a bakery, owned by a man they called Mad, the maddest man in London. In fact, this was not my stage, and I was not running the show. At least, that's what I made them believe. I walked in there alone, with cracked ribs under my coat. I walked out with an alliance that cracked London open. Everyone obsesses over what to say. Almost nobody understands that by the time you open your mouth, you have already spoken. In part 1, I taught you the voice. Today I teach you the instrument underneath it, how I take full control of my body so my messages land before a single word spoken. 5 lessons, 5 dimensions of power, how I speak, how I carry my body, how I dress, how I move people without them noticing, and how I command the one man who matters most, myself. I am Thomas Shelby, and this is my Masterclass. First, understand what I was walking into. Days earlier, the man who ran London's racetracks had sent his men to teach me a lesson. They left me in the street, face split, ribs cracked, one eye swollen shut. That was his message. Birmingham stays in Birmingham. My answer was to take a train to London and walk into the one place his enemies drank rum, a bakery in Camden Town that never sold a single loaf of bread. Most men believe a walk will just take you to the negotiation from the door to the desk. In reality, the negotiation has already started. Researchers found that people form judgments about your competence, your trustworthiness, your aggression within a tenth of a second of seeing you. Surprisingly, given more time, they won't change their verdict, they just gather evidence for it. So when the baker's men walked me through that warehouse, past the barrels and rifles that weren't hidden very well, I made 10 steps do the talking, unhurried, yet friendly, hands out of my pockets, visible and loose, eyes forward. I was checking the room just like this was all about inspecting a property I might buy. They knew what had happened to me in London just a couple of days earlier. Every man in that room was watching to see if I'd walk in like a beaten man, or angry like a hurt predator. I walked in like a man arriving to collect rent, downplaying the predicament. In fact, that was my offer to the madman. Let's forget about what has happened and get down to business. Your entrance is your opening offer. Can you use this technique in a position of strength? Certainly. Yet, believe me, these techniques are even more important when you're on the defensive and fighting for your life. Then I met the baker, or should I rather say, king of Camden Town, a man who quoted scripture while cleaning a pistol. His men flinched when he moved. Well, I think this was the whole point behind his movements. He circled me, talked about rum, about God, about the difference between drinks for weddings and drinks for funerals, and let the question hang about which occasion I was. The baker did well with his speech. No shouting, no direct threats, at least not by speech. At some point, his hand came down on the desk like a gunshot. Every man in that room apart from me jumped. I had learned what the body does under fear and decided to intercept it. Under stress, the nervous system leaks. It rubs the neck, touches the face, shifts the weight from foot to foot, adjusts a jacket that doesn't need adjusting. Behavioral researchers have a name for these leaks, and they've shown that the men doing them are perceived as lower status, less composed, less dangerous. Fidgeting is a confession written in a language everyone reads and nobody remembers learning. So I give the room nothing to read, hands still, shoulders down. The glass of rum he poured me, I just let it stand, giving him no movement whatsoever. Stillness sends a statement to violent men that threats never could. A man who doesn't flinch at the hand on the desk is a man who has already priced in the hand on the desk. That arithmetic happens in the baker's head, not yours. You just have to stand still. Then came the chair. He didn't offer it. That was a test too. Keep a man standing and you keep him a petitioner, a beggar in a good coat. So I took the chair without asking, sat back, elbow over the backrest, legs settled, unhurried, like the furniture had been expecting me for years. Insignificant details? There is no such thing in another king's office. The science here is as old as humanity itself. Every organism on Earth signals rank through space. Researchers have measured it in humans precisely. Expansive posture is one of the very few body signals that reliably tracks real dominance. How people rate themselves, how others rate them, and most importantly, how high they actually sit in the hierarchy. Ever found yourself sitting with collapsed shoulders, folded arms, a body pulled in tight? That's the posture of a man expecting a hit. A true king always sits up straight. Well, on that day I had cracked ribs begging me to curl around them. I'm not gonna lie, sitting back in that chair hurt more than the beating did. I did it anyway, because the baker was watching me to answer one simple question. Is Birmingham strong enough to make an alliance worthwhile? Don't be fooled. This is not about the peacock nonsense you see from doormen and drunks. Chest out, arms wide, crowding a man. These are false threats that anyone apart from simple thugs will read. Real power is more subtle. It says, I'm comfortable here, in your building, surrounded by your men. Draw your own conclusions about why. Take the space calmly, and the room will assume you deserve it. While I was performing with my body, so was the madman, and the baker was better at this than any man I've ever sat across. Rewatch the setting, everyone, as if all the sound and noise is off, and you will release. Most good men are playing their own game. Scientists have studied exactly that and showed people silent video clips of strangers. At first, 30 seconds, then 10, then 2. No sound, just the body. And from those silent seconds, observers predicted, with unsettling accuracy, how the conversations would play out. Words are mostly decoration. The body is the broadcast. This leaves you with two implications for conversations like these. First, your body is transmitting every second you're in the room, and even before you speak. There is no pause button. The men who lose rooms are the men who only control their body while they're talking, then slump into honesty the moment the attention moves. Assume the camera is always on you, because it is. Second, turn the sound off on your opponents. While the baker preached his sermons, I stopped listening to the scripture and watched the film, where his feet pointed when he mentioned the man from London, toward the door, every time. A subject that made his hand find the back of his neck. How his theatrics grew louder exactly when the conversation touched his weakness. That is exactly when I knew he was losing his war against the Italians. And at a certain point he realized I had read him. His mouth spent the meeting telling me he needed nothing. His body spent the meeting telling me he was at war and losing it. Well, I don't care he never admitted it in speech. It was the basis for our business agreement anyways. And now the final lesson, the one the first four were protecting. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Everything I've taught you today, the walk, the stillness, the posture, can be read by a clever opponent. Study a man long enough, and even his discipline becomes a pattern, and patterns are a dictionary. The baker understood this better than anyone in England. Warm, then lethal, then warm again, inside a single sentence. And that's exactly how he made most men around him feel uncomfortable. Negotiators who switch between emotions, unpredictably, without pattern, extracted significantly more concessions than negotiators who stayed consistent. It isn't the switching that frightens people, but rather the feeling of not being in control. A man who can't forecast you can't price you, so he pays extra just to be safe. So at the end, when the baker had finished his theatre and asked me, calm, almost gentle, why he shouldn't just have me walked out the back and shot, I smiled. First time in the whole meeting. A beaten man from Birmingham, alone, surrounded, with cracked ribs. Then I let the smile go, cold, and told him what I'd watched his body confess for an hour, that he was losing his war with the man from London, that his men were bleeding, and that Birmingham wasn't here to ask for protection. Birmingham was here to sell it. He stared at me for a long moment, then the maddest man in London started laughing and shook my hand. That was the second dimension of power. The body. 10 steps, a chair, an hour of stillness, and one smile in the wrong place. Worth more than every word spoken in that bakery. Mastering body language is not easy. You might need to rewind this lesson over and over again. But this is what makes a true leader. The moment a man can predict you is the moment he owns you. I walked into Camden Town as a message someone else had beaten into shape. My body language mastery made me walk out as the storm London couldn't withstand. However, a still body and an unreadable face will carry you only as far as the door. Because before you've said a word, before you've even moved, one thing has already spoken for you. The cut of your coat, the state of your shoes, the watch, the cap, the razor line of the parting in your hair. Next up, part 3 of my masterclass, How I Dress to Impress. Armor, class, and threat of war, all in the same suit. The full masterclass is in the playlist below. Watch it in order. It's built that way for a reason. And when the world makes you feel small again, come back here. This channel is where legends are studied, so men like you can become one.